Welcome to Bass Fishing Dive Bar. I'm Adam Hinkle. We got Kurt Demerath, and today we've got a Bassmaster Classic champion, a Forest Wood Cup champion. He's got 35 professional top 10s, 4 professional wins, and he's got $3.6 million in earnings on the professional level. Luke Clausen. How's it going, Luke?
Good. Thank you guys for having me.
Not a problem. Glad you could find some time.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah. It should be fun.
It will be fun. So you and Kurt know each other pretty well. This is our first time talking.
I have to admit to that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, he does.
Yeah.
This is like called you.
Yeah, I've known Kurt for quite a few years back in the days of Dirty Jigs. So probably a lot of stories that can't be repeated, but yeah, I've known Kurt for quite some time.
We should do one with Canterbury on here once.
He's got some good stories about you or about me?
Oh, I'm sure he's got stories about me and you.
Oh, I see. Maybe.
We should get both on.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You can do surprise guests for people.
Yeah.
Call them out with embarrassing stories.
Yeah, there you go. How long do you remember? Do you remember when you and I first got working together?
I don't. I'm gonna say 2009, 10, somewhere in there, maybe.
Maybe.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, I was gonna look it up and I forgot. You can see.
Yeah,
About as long as you and I have been talking then.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'll look it up.
Yeah, a lot
So
of
we're gonna
long
talk about
phone
today.
conversation with Kurt. What's that?
Yeah, no, none of them are short with Kurt. That's for sure.
What's that?
Yeah, he thought the 2-hour and 40-minute podcast was long.
It's not our average phone conversation.
Right.
So we brought you in because you grew up fishing the West, right? That's kind of we're gonna try and stay on topic here, but it never does. You grew up fishing the West and you took it national. You're from Washington. Where are you from in Washington?
Yeah, Spokane, Washington's where I grew up. Went to school, college up here, and when I started in college at I guess I went to Washington State University for one semester, and the fraternity wasn't a real good place for me in fishing tournaments or my grades. And so I ended up going to Eastern Washington University and fishing there. There was no college fishing at the time. It was just competitively fishing to make money. I won my first tournament when I was 16 and my first boat when I was 17. And that's like what got me hooked on competitive fishing. I was like, shit, I can make a living doing this. Like, why would I want to go to a 9-to-5 job when I can do something I love? So anyway, I fished my way through college and, it had some success, bankrolled some money when I graduated college, moved down to California, lived in Woodland, just north of Sacramento there for about a year and a half, something like that. Fishing bass invitationals, I believe they were called at the time, one bass, Western bass, those type of events. And actually the first year I lived down there, I qualified for the Classic through the invitationals and the top 150s. I probably would have been in California a lot longer if that hadn't happened, but then I decided to just live in my truck and drive around to tournaments all over the East Coast. So it was
Nice.
That was kind of the beginning of it. I spent a lot of time in California in college, so I used to drive back down on Friday nights after class, drive all night, fish a tournament Saturday and Sunday at Clear Lake, Shasta, Oroville, drive back Sunday night, and get back for class Monday morning. So it was like you're young, you're invincible, man. Like I'd put a 12-pack of Diet Coke next to me and I could fish all day and drive 15 hours and make it to class in the morning and still feel good enough that afternoon to meet my buddies at the bar. It's like you could do anything you wanted back then. So it was a cool time though. Fishing out West is, a lot of fond memories fishing, not only in California, but Washington, Arizona, just all these Western events that I fished when I was younger. I have a lot of fond memories of those and look forward to get back fishing more of those.
So you're coming back out and fishing a bunch this year?
I'm gonna fish some this year. Time is something I have a lot less of these days. It feels like I got a little girl that's 8, and between that, I'm gonna fish the NPFLs back east, and I'm gonna fish what one bass events I can fish. I missed the first one at Clear Lake there because I was down in New Mexico mule deer hunting. But I'll probably do the rest of them here. The Clear Lake one that's coming up in April is the most exciting one on the schedule to me, but probably the hardest one to work on with my schedule, and that I'm gonna have to fish the event, probably fly out that the night of the event gets done or the next morning, and I'll miss a day of practice for the next event in Texas. So
Yeah,
I'd
I'll be
like to
at that
fish
one.
all those. What's that?
I'll be at that one.
Yeah, yeah, it should be an awesome like spawn event. I'm sure I remember fishing it back in the early 2000s in these bed fishing tournaments, and it was fun then because there wasn't nearly as many people that bed fish as they do now. So it'll probably be
Yeah,
a busy place on the bank, I'm sure, but still, with that time of year at Clear Lake, it's hard to imagine not winning, catching fish that are spawning or somewhere relating to that spawn.
for sure. There should be a lot going on, but the spawn is definitely going to be a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure the lake's changed a lot since I've fished it. But it's still, you can see by the way, it's incredible fisheries. At first event here this year, a young guy I fished with here at home won with 98 pounds for 3 days. I don't there. It's been like since what Falcon or Amstead was just on fire 20 years ago that we saw weights like that where people can average over 30 a
Yeah.
day. But just
Yeah.
incredible, uncommon anywhere in the world.
In the last few years, it's been that way consistently at that place. That place it's ridiculous how good it is.
And you don't hear about it like you used to. Back east,
No.
you don't hear about it at all. It's still
Do you think
been
that's a
doing.
lot because like Bassmaster doesn't go there anymore though, or everybody's just sick of hearing about it?
No, I think it's with not having the presence that you had from the FLW days and the Bassmaster days where they were running opens or whatever division of their lower level stuff. They were going there. Now, do either of them have anything really going out west anymore?
No, really not.
No.
I don't think anything. I mean, like one Bass has some deal with Bass that they qualified for the nation championship, I think, but that's like MLF or FLW, whatever you want to call it. Now it's one and the same, but I don't think they have anything going on out here out west at all that I'm aware of.
No, there's nothing. One bass
Yeah,
is it.
as bad as it sounds, I can't blame either of the leagues. Like the anglers really didn't support them when they were out here. They gave it a lot of effort, but the turnouts just weren't there.
Right.
I wish back in the day when FLW had the FLW series out here, I wish I would have fished more of them at the time. I didn't because it seemed like I had a lot of stuff going on. I was a long ways away and kind of a pain to do. But in hindsight, I wish I would have fished them.
Do you think that's really the only reason is because of the distance and travel?
For guys to come out and fish events out here west, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that familiarity, some of it, but I think a lot of it. But I mean, the reality is, like, when we looked at, I was trying to talk MLF into coming out west when I was fishing there, and from Tulsa to some of these lakes out west, it's closer than it is for me to drive from Washington, and they drive further than that to go to the St. Lawrence from there. But a guy from Florida, yeah, it's a long ass drive. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm driving to Florida here in a month. It's like there's always going to be somebody that's going to do it. It's just not the numbers aren't going to drive that far. And I think it's a little bit intimidating to go to a lake they've never been to before, don't know anything about. Probably for some people, that's kind of most people that fish professionally have done their whole life, but the average guy that's fishing around his house all the time to jump in a car and go to California to fish a tournament might seem a little bit overwhelming.
Mhm.
Even just here, the opportunity to go fish at any level within 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a big area,
Yeah.
And when you look at the concentration of the bass fishermen, you're sort of Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, Florida. I mean, that's all a 16-hour drive from one end to the other. That's it. And that's where most of the fishermen are.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what changed out west, because back late 90s, early 2000s, I think I started to go to California when I was, I might have been a senior in high school, like 97, somewhere in there. But those Bass Invitationals, they were getting, I think it was like 150 boats away, I recall it. One bass and Western bass were 150 boats apiece. There was a lot of anglers turning out for this. And over not that long of a period, from then to like 2000 and I don't know, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, it's just like people just kind of kept falling off the tournament scene in a lot of Western events, not only in California, but even Washington. We had a lot bigger numbers in team tournaments and stuff up here than we have now back then. And there's a lot more people fishing. I mean, back then, if I saw a boat going down the freeway up here, I generally knew who it was. Now there's bass boats everywhere, but tournaments are just still smaller fields.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. I don't recognize half of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do,
Blame it on
do you,
social media. I don't know what it is, but yeah, people just aren't as willing to go compete as the experience now as they used to be, it seems like.
do you feel that there's more tournaments, though? Do you feel like those anglers you're seeing that, but the fields are down, do you feel they're spread out across more tournaments than there used to be?
There's really not any more tournaments that I'm aware of up here. Maybe less than there used to be when I was growing up around here.
Mm-hmm.
But now you go to a boat ramp, say I go to Coeur d'Alene, there's a lot of times there's 25 trailers at the ramp on a Wednesday that are all bass boats.
Mm-hmm.
And a tournament will come that weekend and it gets 20 boats. Like there's a lot of people fishing, just not a lot of people fishing tournaments. I don't know why that is, though.
Yeah, here at least it seems like they're spread out more. Almost everybody you talk to on the water is practicing for a tournament, fishing a tournament, whatever. But there's so many tournaments going on all over the place all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like California, that northern California region where I was after college, all those tournaments always had really good turnouts. And you see this last Clear Lake tournament, 70 some boats. Like the way I recollect it, you never heard of that small of a turnout at Clear Lake any time of year for any tournament. Like everybody wanted to go to Clear Lake when I was there. And I don't know why there's that many less people fishing these. There may be more tournaments in California just as of recently with the BAM stuff, but I think it's still probably less tournaments than the way I remember it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's not accurate, though. It might just be my perception.
Yeah. We have a bunch of just like non-circuit, individual, just this body of water, the local bars having a tournament or this or that around. We have a lot more of that stuff than we used to.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it in the last episode that, I see it here. We used to get 80 boats in a team tournament back in, the early 2000s. Now you're lucky if you get 25 or 30. We used to have 20 bass clubs in San Diego, and I think we're under 10 now. The club that I've been a part of, we used to have 20 members, and we're lucky if we get 5 or 6 guys to show up for a tournament now. So it's just in general, people are fishing less tournaments, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's harder to live right now, but it's got to have something to do with it.
Yeah, I don't know. They're spending that much money on a boat. Obviously, they have some discretionary income, though. You think they have a lot of debt, one of the two. But they're spending 100 to 140 on a boat rigged out now. You think to go fish a tournament for $200 wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? But yeah, it's like people would rather not compete, and I think they're still fishing from what I see. They're just not competing. They go out with their buddies and go fish for the day, whatever it is, but don't get in the tournament. And I don't know. I've often thought that a lot of it's just social media. Like you can be the winner every day when you hold up a picture of a fish on social media, but you got to go to the scale against somebody. It's really easy to be a loser. There's only one guy that's going to win.
For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I attribute a lot to that. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, I think that it seems like it's hard for people to swallow not doing well in a tournament and they go to one or two and quit. Whereas when I was growing up, there was guys that come in damn near last every tournament and they're happy and giggling and at the next one, you know. It was fun,
Absolutely.
just the
You always had your
camaraderie of it.
donators.
And yeah, yeah. And I mean, they were fine with it. They knew that, but they still
Yeah,
enjoyed doing it. They had fun going and hanging out with the guys. And I mean, it
absolutely.
is what it is. It's not putting them down at all. They still enjoyed it. It was worth it for the experience for them to go pay a couple $100 to go hang out with the boys, drink some beers that night, and get up feeling hungover in the morning, go fish all day, come back, take your ass whooping, and joke about it, and come back for the next one. You know, and there's some guys that were going to win a bunch, and you know, everybody kind of expected them to win, and it's kind of what it was. It was like a hierarchy. It was kind of accepted almost of where people finished in tournaments. There were some guys that were just excited to get a check. Some guys that were pissed off they got second, but everybody had their expectations, but they were still willing to pay the price to go play and have fun with it, you know. And it doesn't seem like it's that way anymore.
No, it's not.
No, I mean our entry fees have doubled or even in some cases tripled around here. You know, so that seems to have an effect on things. But still, like it's funny how Adam talks about how the clubs are down for him and this and that. And I don't know if we got more clubs, but we definitely have clubs with more members here. We've got an awful lot of active clubs that between Illinois that comes up here and Wisconsin clubs that, yeah, it seemed bigger than ever here, if you ask me.
I don't know that our club participation, just from what I hear around here, has really changed that much. It sounds like it's pretty stagnant as far as numbers go in the local clubs around here. But a lot of these clubs around here, from what I hear, is they may have 40 members in their club. The tournament rolls around and only a dozen guys show up for the tournament. There's more guys that come to a meeting than a tournament.
Yeah, that's pretty same here.
Which is kind of hard to understand. Like, I remember bass club meetings, and I don't know that I want to be at another one in my life. I remember as a kid, it was a bunch of old guys always arguing about like the color of their jackets they were going to make that year, and it just turned into a big piston match. These guys about something that seemed pretty frivolous then, seems even more frivolous now. Like, we're really bitching about something this simple. Like, who really cares that much, But it was a reason for everybody to get together and do that, and they loved it, And like I was just kind of like, wow, I just want to fish, But yeah, everybody's there for a different reason. That's for sure.
I do miss those meetings, though. Those meetings, it was a family. I do miss those meetings because I grew up in a bass club. I was fishing with those guys since I was 12 years old, so it was a family. It was like my second family.
Yeah.
So to go and hang out with those guys every month, as a 15-year-old kid, them drinking beers in somebody's living room and giving each other shit, and it was fun. Those were good memories for me.
I have a lot of good memories of the guys in the club because I was kind of the same way. I started when I was like 8 or 9 years old. It was just the meetings. I remember just like, let me out of here. I'm sitting there, obviously I'm 12 years old listening to this. Like, I just want to go home. The tournaments were always the fun thing for me. Like, I'd fish against the older guys as soon as I turned 12 or 13. And it was always fun. A lot of those guys were, at the time, seemed like they were pretty old, but they were like late 20s, But I was 13 years old. But I remember them slipping me beers all the time, and it was always giving me a hard time and stuff. It was a lot of friendships that last to this day still, just really good guys, and I really enjoyed the club. It was just the meetings, not so fun when you're 12. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like clubs really haven't changed a lot from what I hear. I mean, as far as numbers go, participation, most places. I know you said like they're down there, but you hear about some of these clubs in other parts of the country, and numbers are kind of the same they were 25 years ago, and it doesn't really grow or shrink. And you think that would change in some meaningful way too, but it doesn't seem to. But I don't know, maybe Kurt's get bigger because they have them at bars up there all the time, kind of like their archery ranges.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've never been to a bass club meeting that wasn't at a bar. I don't know what you guys are talking about, people's houses and stuff. Bars and bowling alleys.
That was a BOF or something like that. It was some old, like, Oh shit! It's kind of like an Elks type building. We had it in this dreary basement. I remember, in there.
So you
But
started
yeah,
fishing out west. You were fishing the one bass stuff. How did that turn into a national thing for you?
well, I fished one Western Bass and the Bass Invitationals that last year I was out here. That's how I qualified through the invitationals for the Classic that year in the top 150s. So that was kind of like I'm trying to remember. I think that was in the fall. It was in the spring, maybe it ended. So I had a little bit of downtime. I lived in Arizona for a little while before the season started again. I think that was in the spring I qualified. We didn't start till the next spring, so May, June, something like that at Havasu, I believe was the last event. I remember Skeet coming up and talking shit to me. They're like, "You really think you're gonna make it, don't you?" Cause I think I was in second or third after the first day at Havasu. And that was the one I did qualify on. I just, for some reason, didn't really remember Skeet at the time. I didn't really know Skeet then. So coming up and giving me some smart ass comment about thinking I was going to make it because I started off good the first day. But yeah, anyway, qualified for those. So the next spring, I was going to go back and start fishing the top 150s. And I fished the Classic that summer at Lay Lake, I believe it was. I believe it was in the summer before, and got my brains beat out. And then I went and stayed in Arizona for a while with John Murray. Well, my parents had a house down there, but John Murray and Andre Moore and Ish Monroe and Brett Height, kind of like all of us would run around together. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. I spent a lot of money there. It was kind of a wild time with those guys. We were all fairly young, and it was a lot of fun. But spent a lot of money and ended up leaving there with the city of Scottsdale trying to press arson charges on me because Ish's girlfriend kicked over some fireworks and lit the neighbor's house and tree on fire. And we left town the next morning. It was like a whole disastrous deal. I remember, luckily, Andre knew the ex chief of police there, so I was consulting with him every day when they were calling, threatening me that they were going to put a warrant out for my arrest when I was on my way to Florida. But yeah, so the younger days were a lot of fun stuff, but there's a lot of things that I'm probably lucky that I am doing what I'm doing today because it was pretty wild times there for a while. But anyway, after leaving Arizona, went back and started fishing the top 150s that spring. The first one was at Okeechobee, I believe, that spring. So that was kind of the beginning of it for me fishing back there. And at that time, it was just a vagabond. I mean, I was living in the back of a half-ton Chevy with a canopy and an air mattress. And I had tackle every night. It would all tumble down, so I have to stack it up on the sides of the air mattress so I could sleep again, like a little tunnel. And then I'd go get out of my there, and every time you drive, it would all just tip over again. And anyway, just fishing, living in my truck, and traveling around. It was a fun time, for being that age. Like I couldn't imagine if somebody that was going to do that now, my age, going out thinking I'm mid 40s and I'm going to go out and live in a truck and drive around. But when you're 22, 23 years old, it's like a dream come true. So it was a really cool experience. Met a lot of great friends and saw a lot of really cool places. That was probably as exciting as anything when you love to fish, going to legendary fisheries. Like that year we went to Okeechobee, Seminole, Harris Chain. I'm trying to remember all the events we went to. I think Clear Lake might have been that year. Might have been the year we came out to Clear Lake in the Delta too. I don't remember if it was that year or the next year, but anyway, a lot of those fisheries you heard so much about. I'd seen Bob Cobb stand on the shores of a lot of those places growing up as a kid
Mhm.
watching Bassmaster. So going to those lakes was like super cool. Like that was really the neatest thing, going out seeing those fisheries and the diversity of our country. For somebody that had been out west the whole time, and you go see all these different places where, whether I'm down at Toledo Bend, which every place I talk about, I'm thinking of a story like is just totally going off on a tangent. But I remember I went to turn my truck around there. I was staying with Byron Velvick and Brett Height, and sunk in a septic drain field at this trailer we were staying in, and Byron and Brett had been drinking all day. So I get stuck. I mean, my truck sinks all the way to the running boards, And those two idiots up there screaming, "That's our shit, fucker," just relentlessly on the back deck. And I'm so mad. I can't get out of there. The guy's screaming at me, whose trailer it is. "You're going to pay for this." And those two idiots just keep repetitively saying that for like a half hour. But so many fisheries like that, I think of at least one, if not of a lot of funny memories of just stuff that happened over the years, you know. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of how I got back to fishing those. I fished 2003. Was it 2003 and four? No, 2003 I fished bass. 2003 or 2004 rather, I fished bass and FLW, and that's when I qualified for the Forest Wood Cup that year through FLW also. So fished the Forest Wood Cup and won that summer. And at the time, I mean, I didn't really realize how big a deal it was. I probably would have told you that the money didn't mean that much to me, and I would have been a liar. But making $500,000, I probably had, I don't know, $6,000 to $8,000 worth of sponsorship revenue is all. And I'm just pretty much putting my money in going to fish the next one. Like the first year of fishing the top 150s, I think I had, God, I'd have to go back and look, but I think I had two or three like top threes, and I had the others were like bottom threes. You know, it was like all or nothing for me. And it's like you have the big paychecks and you're paying more money out. So to win that was a pretty big deal to do that, have all these sponsors, and like change the whole dynamic of my career because when I was younger, it was all about just catching fish. I really didn't care much about sponsors. Didn't have to worry about it because nobody wanted to sponsor me. Nobody knew who I was, you know. Didn't have to worry about doing any kind of, at the time it was writers conferences and stuff like that. You know, after that, it just changed everything really for me. And all of a sudden, going to school for marketing and business management, understanding more how the business side of it works was really important. Where I probably hadn't used my college career or college degree much before that, but all of a sudden, I had a bunch of sponsors. And then it was just amplified in 2006. I was still fishing a boat in 2006. I won the classic that I qualified for in 2005, and again got a lot more sponsors, and it really changed the way I guess I looked at competitive fishing to what it was previously. I just wanted to beat all the old men and gloat about it, you know. And now I'm like, this is actually like a real career. It felt like it legitimized it as much as it was a lot of confidence having that money in your bank account that you're going to continue to do it. It kind of changed the way you look at it. It changed the whole scope of everything I did. I mean, prior to that, I just fished every day, daylight till dark, and my diet was two Taco Bell soft tacos and usually a natural light tall boy, and I'd go to sleep in the back of my truck. You know, that was like that's what I did for a couple years. You know, so it was just it really my whole career and a lot of changes took place early on for me, you know, and even my biggest success is winning the Classic and Forest Wood Cup. You know, that's 20 years ago now that I won the Classic. A lot of that happened early on, and a lot of it was probably just not knowing any better, you know. It was pretty simple. Back then, I used to go out there and have 4 or 5 rods on the deck. Now I have 24 or 25 on the deck and think more about it and think more about all the other sides of the sport that I partake in as far as promoting sponsors and working with sponsors and promoting myself, that kind of stuff. There's just a lot more on the table than there used to be. So.
Yeah, so Okeechobee, when you left the West to go out and fish out there, was Okeechobee the first one?
Yeah, but don't know if it was Okeechobee or Harris Chain that year. I want to say it was Okeechobee. I do have a good Okeechobee
What
story too. But
what was
yeah.
that like? Leaving here and going to a place like that. I mean, that's completely different than what you're used to doing.
Kind of. So it's kind of weird growing up here in Washington. We have a lot of really diverse fisheries. I mean, and may not be to the level of like an Okeechobee, but so the south end of Coeur d'Alene, which I grew up fishing, is wild rice and there's grass everywhere, and it's a lot of emergent vegetation that's above the surface. So obviously the scale of it is astronomically larger Okeechobee. Yeah, it's a little bit daunting. You're like, where do you start? I mean, it's a huge
Hmm.
pond, and even then, there was so much more vegetation than there is now. It's so much more fishable water. Yeah, think back to fishing it then, and it was, I mean, 3 times as much vegetation as there is now. A lot of the hurricanes, high, low water has really changed that fishery. Back then, it was just like beautiful clear water, hydrilla for miles, and Kissimmee grass everywhere, and it just, yeah, daunting. My story about that though was that was the first year I'd ever had a GPS. It was a pinpoint GPS back in the day. Mercury owned
Hmm.
pinpoint, and it had one of those. And we took off out of the north end, and we're all running down south. Everybody's going down to Pelican, South Bay, and they were launching a shuttle and deregulated everybody's the satellites back then. They used to deregulate them. Maybe they still do, not to what I'm aware of. But everybody's GPS goes out. It's just a fog bank, and we spent like 45 minutes doing circles in the middle of the lake with all these other boats because we had no idea where we were going. Uh, but yeah, Okeechobee, like I'm trying to remember if I got a check there. I remember I caught a 7 something. I didn't even know anything about flipping a heavyweight. I'd never done that before. I bought one at the tackle store up there because somebody's like, "Oh, you need one of these ounce weights." At the time, there wasn't even ounce and a halves. There were an ounce of lead guys were using, and I went and flipped it in some pads. Like of all places, I don't know why I'm flipping an ounce in pads that are a foot and a half deep. But I caught like a 7 pounder in my third flip the first morning. I remember 7.2, 7.3. And I did not have a great tournament. I might have got a check. I don't recall if I did or not, but look back kind of like just inexperience. I said use a heavy weight, so I did. But yeah, to this day, I wouldn't probably go flipping a foot and a half of water in some pads when it's a cold front in Florida. But it worked for one big one. But yeah, it was cool, cool to see and cool to do for sure. Just a neat fishery, and like I said, it was so much better then than it is now. It's just and there's so much fishable water, and you catch so many fish. And they were schooling out in the middle, and just fish everywhere. The whole thing was clear. It's a different place
What is
back then.
what has
Go
been
ahead.
the most what has been the most challenging lake that you've gone to for the first time and you're just like, this doesn't fish like anything that I know?
I think back then I was so open-minded. I didn't find it challenging. Like I just could figure it out. It was just kind of like at a loss. And there was a lot
Hmm.
of lakes like that. Like I had good finishes or horrible finishes. I don't know that repetitively I've had lakes that have been really tough on me. I think that generally when I really struggle at a lake is when I think I know how I'm going to catch them. A lake that I'm actually fairly confident in going to.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that's a good way to be wrong. Think you know how you're going to go catch them because those are the worst tournaments I've ever had. When I go into an event like, man, I'm going to catch them flipping at this one, or they should bite a buzz, whatever it is. And those are like the most challenging things, getting those memories out of your head. Some of the lakes that I've been to a lot of times probably are harder than lakes that I go to the first time. I think those are probably
Mhm.
easier. The lakes that the first time it's easier to see something objectively when you haven't been there before. So you don't set yourself up for failure.
Yeah, you're not fishing with an open mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, very true. I mean, that's like if I think that there's a lot of fishermen that are really good fishermen that are very simple in their fishing approach, probably simple in their personality. Not going to name any names, but you talk to them and you're like, wow, like I'm making this way too damn hard. It's like this guy's having a hard time getting to the ramp for the second day in a row because he can't figure shit out, but he's going to go kick my ass. It's like I'm like way overthinking this. It's pretty crazy how the simplicity can be so effective in fishing, and it's kind of a reminder almost every time that I make a top 10 and you go pull up to a dock, and all the bigger tournaments, the top 10 always kind of gets around the dock the first day or the morning of the top 10 day, and everybody's sitting around because there's only that many, there's always room on the dock. I always walk down the dock and I'm like, how is it that I have like twice as many rods on the deck as any other boat out here? And so many of the guys that perennially do really well have a lot of top tens, maybe win a lot, whatever, have like 2 to 4 rods on their deck. It's
Yeah.
pretty simple.
That's what makes it such a great sport, though, is you've got those guys that go out with 2 to 3 rods on the deck, and then you got guys like Aaron
Mm-hmm.
that is just the attention to detail still goes unmatched as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's I've stayed at Aaron's house several times, and just it's mind-boggling to me because I think I put a lot of thought into it, and then there's Aaron rambling on about the colors of his worms, and pretty soon he's talking about goats, and then we're talking about underspins, and he's got everything just yeah, yeah, it is because I mean he's kind of the exception that is it was as one of the best fishermen there's ever been. That's been that analytical. Most really good
Yeah.
fishermen are never really that analytical like that. They're going to go out and do it, and they find a reason. Generally, it seems like a lot of fishermen find a reason to say why they did what they did after they catch them, but beforehand they probably couldn't tell you. It's like, yeah, I can say I caught him on this you know, discolored crankbait because of this after they catch him, but beforehand, they don't necessarily know why they're throwing that colored crankbait. They're like, oh, I just decided to give it a try. I don't know. It sounded like it might work. It's like they don't really have a rationale. A lot of people justify it after the fact, I think. But yeah, a lot of the really good fishermen just kind of follow their gut and keep it pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
I can, yeah, think of very few that are anywhere near where Aaron's at, and none that have had the success he had.
No.
As far as the amount of thought he put into it, it was yeah, pretty crazy to see somebody out of the norm as much as he was, as far as that he was so analytical and so successful. Because I don't know anybody that thinks about it like that does well. Usually, it's the opposite.
No, I don't think anybody ever took it to that level. And I
No.
don't think anybody has since.
No, no. I mean, there's some guys that talk about why they do what a lot, like they put a lot of thought into it, but it's still a guy with 2 rods on the deck a lot of times, and going to throw the same bait, 9 months out of the year. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
Aaron's worried about the hue of the bottom color of his worm, or, straightening them all out, and just, yeah, just to the nth degree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy sport, that's for sure.
It is. What do you got for him, Kurt? You had a specific question you were going to ask him about the transition from fishing out west out here or nationally.
I think we covered all that already.
You had a specific question, though. No?
Nope.
Okay.
Sounds like this could be a
Nope.
setup. I see smirks, all
Nope.
kinds of.
Nope. Don't remember one.
Yeah,
That's
we were
why I
talking
tell
about the similarities.
that's why I tell Adam all these things, because I probably just forgot, and he probably knows what it is. So why he didn't ask it yet, I don't know, but I don't remember it.
No, it had something to do with the transition and why I think it was
No, that's the transition now today. So
today. Got it.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'll kind of run through the rest of the transitions of my career. After 2006, I won the Bassmasters Classic. That year, had to decide if I was going to fish one or the other. Uh, had an opportunity with FLW at the time to make a considerable amount of money off sponsors, and I was going to lose it all if I went and fished bass. So made the decision to fish FLW. I did that to 2016. And I guess 2015, I started fishing the Opens again, qualified to fish the Elite Series again, did that for a few years. The big shakeup came about, and went to Major League Fishing. We were promised a lot. I remember sitting in that meeting, and all kinds of promises. There's going to be no entry fees. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. And honestly, it wasn't about what was then. I thought, this is probably the only chance to really grow where we're at right now, because bass, love them, hate them, whatever, they've been kind of the same thing for the last, since 2006, probably when the Elite Series started. It really hasn't changed. Anything's really changed there. So I think myself, and there was a lot of other people that, we heard a lot of promises of what was going to happen, but most importantly, it was like, is this the one thing that really could propel professional bass fishing somewhere it hasn't been before? To grow it into more of a mainstream sport. And as we see now, that really didn't happen. A lot of the promises never came true, and it really didn't propel it into something that it wasn't. We just kind of divided the sport more. So this year, October rolled around, and I had to decide if I was going to sign up for BPT again or do something different. And I decided not to sign up and fish the NPFL this next year, and then do some of these one bass events. And it's not because of forward facing sonar. It's not necessarily because of five fish. I think it's pretty selfish that it's just happiness. I really wasn't having that much fun fishing over there. Some of it was frustrating to me. As much as I love forward facing sonar, I love using it, but it's really frustrating to use it one period a day. It feels like you're fishing two tournaments in one.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a battle in my mind that took place every event. You kind of felt like if you didn't do that, it's pretty hard to keep up. And there's some guys that do. Zach Burge is a great example. He gets a lot of top tens. He doesn't use it that much, doesn't rely on it entirely. But the opposite extreme is true of a guy like Drew Gill. If he can't catch him like that, he's probably not going to catch him. If he can't catch him really good during that one period and try to survive the other periods, he's probably in trouble. And it was frustrating for me. No question about it. Some of it was the amount of success I was having. I mean, I was not doing very well. And I think that takes a lot of fun out of it too. That it really felt like I'd fished FLW to 2006 or to 16. And the reason I went and fished the Bass Opens because I'd grown frustrated with the league. Well, all of a sudden we went full circle. MLF buys FLW, and now the same people that are running FLW are running MLF. It really felt like I was back to FLW all over again. And I think that was some of the frustration there too. All in all, it really came down to, like I said, it was just being selfish. I want to go have fun. I want to do something I love to do. I want to go out there and laugh and joke with my buddies after the tournament's done. No different than when I was fishing team tournaments when I was 19 years old or in a club when I was 14. I want to go out there excited every morning and have fun. And when you're not doing that, I feel like you got to do something different. I mean, for me, personally, want to have fun, but hopefully that translates into more success too. Having a good time, and not the stresses of that. And I went and talked to all my sponsors beforehand, and I just said, "Do you really care where I fish?" And presented the options at the time. I thought bass was going to be an option to go back there. I still had a Legends exemption, and they changed the rule to where you had to be an active elite series participant to use your Legends exemption, which they changed that this fall. Up until then, it always had been that they were going to let two guys in Legends exemptions in every year. Well, they changed that, so I was cut down to either fishing BPT or NPFL at the time, and again got back to just wanting to do what I wanted to do and go have fun. And all my sponsors, surprisingly to me, were like, honestly, it doesn't matter where you fish like it used to, because it used to be. I mean, throughout my whole career, people said you got to go fish bass, you got to go fish FLW, you got to go fish MLF, and for the most part, most people really wanted you to go there, but you weren't really going to financially make any more because of that. It was their personal interest. A lot of times, the individual marketing manager that's there at the time that has some preference for a league that thinks you need to be somewhere. Well, a lot of times he's gone 2 years later, and then there's another guy that's like, "Well, man, you need to be over here." But anyway, yeah, I chose to fish NPFL after talking to all my sponsors. They were just like, as long as you're working your tail off to promote our products and keep doing what you're doing, it doesn't really matter. I mean, most of them all said that tournaments really move the needle as far as sales, like an individual win on a tournament really moved the needle as far as sales as recent as like 5, 7 years ago. You'd see sales numbers of that specific product really take off. And most of them agree they don't see it anymore. I don't know why that is. There's still baits that do that. I actually, like Lee Livesay caught him on a pink jackhammer at I don't even remember what classic that was. Was that last year? Anyway, well, that was a bait nobody really had, nobody paid much attention to. Yeah, they all sold then. But if you would have caught him on a green pumpkin or a black and blue jackhammer, I don't know that you would have seen much of an effect at all. So
Mhm.
tournaments really, unfortunately, I mean, unfortunately for me, because that's how I make a living, that they don't have move the needle as much as they used to, and it just changes what we do for sponsors right now to create value. You know, it used to be that you could just fish tournaments, create value. Back when I first started, that was their sole marketing outlet. We'd advertise in Bass Times or Bassmaster, FLW. Hope you won a tournament and you're on Bass Fan with it, you know. Well, now those same dollars, or maybe less, maybe more, I don't know, but they're spread a lot thinner from YouTube to, Facebook, the influencers, and there's a lot of different places to market. Tournaments aren't the powerhouse they once were, and that's where myself, I spend a lot more time now out filming just when I'm not fishing a tournament, producing videos, content for sponsors, stuff like that. Because if you don't create a value, you're not going to have a sponsor for very long.
For sure.
I just kind of ramble all in circles right there, but I know Kurt's
No,
not
that's good.
surprised.
No, that's exactly what you need to talk about. And you're right. That's the tournaments don't move the needle like they used to because there's too much other media out there exposing baits, exposing product. You know, a lot of times we're used to growing up in a time where that's where we saw the new product. That's where you maybe got exposed to a product that was a regional bait. I don't think there's such a thing as a regional bait anymore because it's too easily put out there through social media. Then someone else gets their hands on it. Next thing you know, that little regional bait, it goes from regional to awareness nationally very, very quickly, where that didn't happen before. So when you have this stuff now where everybody's seeing it right away, you can find it easily. You know, yeah, everybody's got a jackhammer. Somebody does good on a pink. Now everybody wants a pink one. But you're right. If everybody's got a jackhammer already, if you win it on a black blue one, no one's going to go buy more because they already got them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think tournament fishermen are kind of our own worst enemies, and that we've lost a lot of credibility with all this live coverage. Everybody knows you're lying now when you sit out there and you're throwing this crankbait and you say you caught them on a different one. There's all this live out there. Pretty soon, every little chat room and people are commenting. And yeah, I mean, tournament manglers as a whole has lost a lot of credibility over since live coverage really got hot and heavy, 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was, the live coverage took off as much as it has.
Yeah.
All fishermen are liars, including tournament guys.
That's been said on this podcast before.
More than once.
Mm-hmm.
More than once.
But yeah.
So last few years. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just saying that. Yeah, I think that the whole dynamic of my job has changed, throughout the course of it. But the biggest change has probably happened over the last 7 to 10 years when, it used to just be that doing good in tournaments was enough. And I don't care if you're Jacob Wheeler winning as much as he does, just fishing tournaments is not enough to keep a lot of partners happy, and justifiably, I don't think it should be. I think that you're going to have to create value in some other way to have a meaningful revenue stream from a sponsor. You need to create more value than they're paying you to make it worthwhile for them.
Yeah, there's a lot more competition in that realm of promotions and marketing because of all the influencers, all the people that, knowledgeable. Maybe not like you said, maybe they don't go to a tournament, maybe they don't have tournament success, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have knowledge to share that's valuable to all the other fishermen out there.
Well, tournaments were always the judge of credibility, right? And it seems like that's not the case anymore. You were a good fisherman because you did well in tournaments. And now maybe you're a good educator, you're perceived as a good fisherman, and that's enough to sell product for sponsors if it's fishing related stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know that people really put the value on a person being a great angler by his tournament success any longer. Not
Right.
to the extent they did, for sure.
Hmm.
Social media has changed it for sure.
Hmm. Yep.
So I was going to
Yep.
ask you're coming back to fish out west again. I know you've come out the last few years, the last 6 or 7 years at least, to fish the U.S. Open, right?
Yeah, I didn't come this year because the Ultimate Angler Championship, and that's the first year I've missed in, yeah, probably 5, 6 years, something like that.
You
Yeah,
going to
but
fish
it's
the
fun
U.S.
as a.
Open this year?
I am, yeah. So it's the week before the Ultimate Angler this year. Is week before or week after? Either way, but I'm gonna have like a day in between. I'm probably either gonna be driving from Alabama to Nevada or the other way. I think it's Alabama to Nevada. It's the week after, I think. So I don't know that I'm gonna get a practice, but I'm gonna come fish it. Uh, it's a fun lake. Mojave is. I think that
Yeah.
we've seen that change. It was kind of easier to do well there, but the first year we went there, but a lot of the Western guys, shockingly to me, have been behind on forward-facing sonar. They're just not as good with it as a lot of the guys we see out east. Don't put the time in, don't commit to it like we've seen back east. I kind of would have thought it would have been the opposite, to be honest with you. But they're a little bit behind the curve there, I think. And so that was a lot easier to do well at Mojave for that U.S. Open with forward facing, probably as recent as a couple years ago. A lot easier than it is now. These
Hmm.
guys are catching on to that game. That's the only game in town when fishing there. I mean, you may survive one day, but there's no chance in hell you're going to win. Yeah, at that
No,
time
you're
of
not
year at
putting
that
3 days
fishery.
together without it.
Right. Yeah. I don't
No.
see there being a chance. Maybe somebody will prove me wrong this year, but I'd put quite a bit of money against it.
Yeah. How do you feel about it being at Mojave versus Meade? I mean, I know they don't have an option anymore because of lake level and politics and all that, but Kurt gets tired of hearing me talk about Meade. I mean, that place is special to me. It's a special lake.
Yeah, I think you hear that from anglers that have fished there for a long time. Mead's a special lake. They really like it. I mean, I think Mojave's more fun because you're catching bigger fish.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I understand. And to me, I can't say that a tournament lake is better or worse if it takes 10 pounds or 110 pounds a day to win. It is what it is, catching more than the other guy. I like both of them. I can't say that one's that much more spectacular. It is more fun you get more excited catching a 4 pound smallmouth at Mojave or 4.5, 5 pounder than you do catching a 2.5 pound largemouth at Meade to me. But
I'm
yeah,
the opposite.
yeah,
I'm
I
the
know
opposite.
it.
I like the grind.
A lot of these guys that have fished mead their whole life, spent a lot of time there, are like that. We hear it every time I go to the U.S. Open. That's what you hear about. People are like, "Why the hell aren't we going to mead?" And they're frustrated with it. I think the cool thing about mead, it offers a lot more options. It feels like to me at Mojave, there's like one game in town to go catch them. Mead, yeah, there's a guy might catch him on top water up the Overton, or and my guy might catch him on a jig in the lower basin. There's a lot of different things you can do there to be competitive. I think that's the big benefit to Mead. It's more like a junk fisherman's paradise at Mead. There's like
It
you
is.
probably aren't going to catch them on one bait for multiple days in a row and win an event. I mean, I know what happens, but I would say more often than not, you're probably going to have to mix it up, fish new water every day, fish a lot of different baits, and it's fun to fish that way because you feel just kind of just so footloose. You're like, I'll run over here and try this because if you go back to where you caught one the day before, you probably caught his ass and are not going to catch anything there again at me. That's kind of how it is.
Exactly.
It's fun in that aspect of it. I can see both sides of it. Um, I don't know that if I had to pick one or the other, I don't know that I'd be that dead set either way. It's fun fishing tournaments to me, and like I said, it doesn't matter if it's little ones or big ones or whatever it is. It's just fun to fish, compete.
Yeah.
So, do you fish the Open every year?
I have no, not every year. I get one big tournament a year. And last year I fished the Lake Mead Open, last year, fished the Lake Mead Open. Year before, I actually hopped in the boat as a co-angler at the U.S. Open. It's the first co-angler deal I've ever done, and we had an incredible day out there. It was with Julius Maisie. We
Oh
had
yeah.
biggest bag of the tournament with like 23 pounds. So that was a fun day, man. We had 4 of those fish in the first 45 minutes of the day, and just kind of
Yeah.
scrapped for another 3.5 pounder. But like you said, forward facing sonar. It's all it
Yeah.
was. You find
Julius
a
is a
school of
great
fish
guy.
that's kind of roaming around. He is. He's a good dude. I want to have
Yeah.
him on here for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You caught him on a dice that one, didn't he? The smoked dice, wasn't it? Like that's what I
Yeah.
remember
Got him on the
just
dice.
BSing with him after at the awards thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I caught a couple of them on it was a jackal bait on a free rig out in like 50 foot of water.
Hmm.
But it was fun. And
Yeah.
then I fished a couple US Opens at Lake Mead prior to that. But that's really, I've only fished three US Opens.
Yeah.
Didn't really get into the pro-am deal until later.
It's a cool format, that shared weight. And I mean, since, God, I don't even know, probably 2007. I remember talking to Erwin Jacobs about the shared weight format. Like, this is the only way you're going to be able to keep co-anglers interested as this continues. I talked to
Yeah.
Bill Taylor. I talked to Boyd Duckett. I talked to everybody about this. Everybody seems to think it's a terrible idea, but that was the only time I've been in a boat in a pro-am that there's not at least one day some sort of animosity, feeling of like this guy's thrown over my shoulder, whatever it is. A guy feels like you're front ending him, and it's like every day's like that pretty much. I mean, I've had some guys, don't get me wrong, especially in the hobby, I've had a couple guys fall asleep in the boat, feel like they don't have a chance. But that's like they're not upset about it. They're like, I just don't know if I'm going to catch anything back here. And all of a sudden, you hear snoring back there. But it's like it's never that tension, and it's like the experience just
No.
changes entirely. I can't grasp why nobody on a bigger level will do that. I don't understand it. I've pushed harder than anybody for it, I'm sure, and they think it's like the worst idea of all time. I
No,
don't get it.
absolutely not. Like
Are
one of the opens I fished, I had a co-angler dump like a $450 combo in the bottom of the jit beds, and we were catching him so good. I handed him another rod. It was my combo that he dumped in the water. I handed him another rod, and I said, "Get back to catching them. We're not worrying about that. We got to
Yeah,
load the boat." And you're not
yeah,
going to get that from a typical pro-am, when someone's fishing for their own fish. It's a team
right.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of guys, even pros, that are opposed to it. They feel like it's a strange mentality to me, but somebody always thinks somebody's getting something over on them, like they're going to end up with a better co-angler than me. How do you know you're not going to end up with a better one than them? Like, just worry about yourself, But that's not like
Exactly.
the human perception. And there's a lot of pros that don't like the shared weight because they think that somebody's going to get a better co than them. Like I don't know how you come up feeling like that, but yeah, I hear that from pros that like that. I wouldn't like that. And how do I know that guy's co's not catching them all? Well, who cares? Your co might
Oh,
catch them all, but that's okay. It's
you
like
can't you can't go into that tournament expecting a co to catch a fish.
no. And like Mojave, my co's, I think over all the years that we've been there, I've been maybe been there 3 or 4 years, have probably caught. I think zero that we've weighed in, maybe one that we've weighed in, but caught like 4 fish the whole time. I mean, it's hard just to catch one just fishing there.
Yeah,
Um,
it
you
is.
know, we're around some fish. They're hard to catch when you have forward fishing. They're hard to catch. But you're just blind hogging around. It's not very easy. I think I've had 2 fish weighed in now. I think a guy caught one on a whopper plopper one time, and another guy caught one on a jig. But I'm talking 9 or 12 days of fishing now. It's hard for those guys, and I mean, I tell them in the morning, like, this is what we got to do to be competitive, and they're on board. Every one of them's on board and to start with in the morning. I've had some cows that, like you said, get bored because it's hard to get a bite. And there's no if there was something I knew to do to help them get a bite, I sure as hell would because it helped me too. But it's not that easy there. But yeah, that format, it's just I can't believe that some of these pro-ams haven't done that from these lower level events, but they seem very resolute. They don't want any part of it.
Yeah, it seems odd to me. We were talking about this on the last podcast, Adam, with Kyle. You know, and
Yeah.
he's a tournament director. He wasn't opposed to it, saw the advantages of it. But you're right, trying to float that through the guys that are, so far away or removed from fishing a true team tournament, they just don't want anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know.
It's unfortunate because I don't know where this goes without co-anglers in some of these other leagues,
Well, I think with forward-facing sonar, we're probably losing co-anglers faster than we ever have in the last couple of years. I mean, something's going to have to be done to keep them around. I can understand their point. Like, if this guy, especially if he's out there fishing for floaters out in the middle of the lake, and this guy's in the back, like, hell, I have nothing. I'm just going to cast at the water and hope for the best here. Like, this seems
It's a miserable day.
it would feel like a lot of defeat, right? I get it. I don't know what the resolve is though. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't like doing that. I probably would. I'd be the guy asleep. Mhm.
I've seen you nap in a boat. I don't doubt that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I like you said, the co-anglers are always have been a big part of our sport. I mean, just for their buying power, if nothing else. They support a lot of companies, buy a lot of fishing products. It's another individual that's very into fishing, and a lot of times they're in a position in their life they're probably buying more product getting into fishing than a guy that's more established. But yeah, it seems like we keep getting to have less and less of them. And back in the day when we had co-anglers in FLW, there was some miserable days. You get some guys who were competitive. They thought they were going to get sponsors for being a co-angler, and then this and that. And yeah, I can't say I was a big fan of having a co-angler in the boat at the time, but you fish one of those shared weight deals, and it just changes everything entirely. Changes the whole dynamic. It feels like it's a team tournament at that point. I mean, it somewhat is, but
Right.
yeah. Yeah,
Speaking of team tournament, I wanted you to talk a little bit about your experience fishing the MLF team series and what you thought of that from your perspective.
Oh, they're fun. That's the most fun I probably had in MLF tournament since it started. Those those team events have been just a blast. I mean, and it's a different experience with a pro that even if it's a guy you talk to all the time, room with or whatever, getting out fishing with him, I think it changes everything. Because some of these guys, like I fished one with Keith Carson and Michael Neal this year, both guys that I talked to, I know, talked to them about fishing a little bit. I talked to Michael quite a bit. Like when I was fishing BPT, we talked during practice and stuff. But actually getting out there, seeing a guy fish it's a different experience. It's kind of like you kind of feel like you want to see what he's doing just because you've talked to him a bunch, and now it's kind of all out on the table. And I think we're the same way with both of us. You're kind of like, well, what the hell's this guy think he's doing with this? What do you have for ideas? And sometimes they align, sometimes they're very different. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So it's really fun. I mean, it's pretty laid back. There's no entry fees. They don't pay that much money, but there's no entry fees. So it's kind of a laid back, it's a made for TV deal for them. I mean, I think that we are guaranteed like, I don't know, $3,000 or something if you go there to show up. But by the time you fly to an event and get a hotel for a week and whatnot, it's not like just showing up, you're making much money. If you're there for a week and you spend $2,000, you probably could have went to McDonald's and worked all day for a week and made more than that. But it's a fun experience, to go fish with those guys. And I think everybody's competitive, but it's also there's some laid back. You have a lot of off days. The only downfall to them, you spend a lot of time sitting on your ass around a house or a hotel, just like waiting for your next round. And we end up going to sporting goods stores and buying a bunch of stuff we don't need or whatever. Just trying to find something to do. But yeah, it's fun experience. It's very very low key though. it doesn't feel that much like a tournament for every day except for the days you're fishing. The rest of the time, you're kind of like, get up in the morning, what are we going to do today? You try to find a lake to go fish or something. But yeah, they're fun events. Yeah, for somebody that you've competed against all the time, all of a sudden you're in a boat with them, competing with them, I think is kind of a different experience too. That not very often do you go fish a team event with another pro angler of any sort, or I don't anyway. So yeah, they're a lot of fun. I don't think anybody would say they don't really like them, other than maybe Andy Morgan because they're in the fall and he'd rather hunt. But I think everybody else would probably say they enjoy doing them. It's a fun deal. It's like I say, it's not. You don't feel like there's a lot of pressure because there's not a tremendous amount of money to win. You really don't have much to lose, so I think the demeanor of everybody kind of changes when you're there.
Yeah, I think they're definitely entertaining to watch or listen to because of all those things, where you guys are bouncing ideas and then you got to discuss through what you're seeing versus your partner seeing. And I think that's something that, we've never really seen in bass fishing before from guys at your level.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would make them better is if they did a random draw instead of this draft, because you'd get some personalities that dislike each other, some that thought totally differently. I think that would make it more entertaining. I proposed that idea and they shot that down too. But yeah, like I think that would make it a lot more entertaining. You get like a Jacob Wheeler and Brent Ayler that despise each other and they're stuck in the boat together that day. Guys are totally different fishing styles. I mean, some people, it's just like personalities and everything. Some people are really argumentative. Some people just go with the flow, whatever. So you can end up with two really strong personalities in there, or you might end up with two guys that neither of them can come up with a decision because neither of them want to commit to anything. I think the random draw would be a pretty cool way to do it.
So I was going to ask, like, the best, I don't want to say the best team partner I ever had, but the easiest team partner I ever had, like, we didn't even have to talk. We could look at each other and know what we were thinking, and we'd make the move. Like, I'd suggest something. He's like, yep, I already thought of that. Let's go do it. And it was almost always the right move. Have you run into that at that level in a team event with a partner?
I think that every partner I've had, we're always kind of on the same page, unless we're both at a loss. If you're catching fish, both of us are like, we need to go try that point. Yeah. Nobody really ever's like, man, I don't think so. Usually we're kind of on the same page as every guy I've fished with. But I think that the only point that you get to there is kind of like, oh shit, what do we do now? Both of us are at a loss. That's when you're kind of stuck, Yeah.
Final day. The final day on Minocqua.
What's that?
The final day when you're up at Minocqua.
Yeah. Like it feels like we've tried a lot of stuff that both of us thought was a good idea, and none of it's going that well. That's kind of like you're both kind of in the same boat at that point. But yeah, I don't know. Even like I fished with Michael Neal this fall in Alabama, and the first lake we went to, like, both of us were just like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, and like everything's working, right? And we're both, pretty much on the same page with everything. And the next lake we go to the next day, we catch a few. We're leading going into the second period. We kind of feel like we got something a little going, but we're like, we both know it's not good enough to make it through the day because it's too slow. We're still doing better than the other two teams, but we know that somebody's going to figure something out. And if we don't, we're going to end up on the wrong side of it. And we did. I mean, it went to the end of the day. We're like, yep, we're on the wrong side of it now because we knew that was going to happen. You keep trying stuff, keep trying to pick away, catch one, stay a little bit ahead. But man, if you don't figure something out there when weights are low, you know that somebody is going to figure something out. And there's only three teams. You only got to not be last, right? In that knockout round, like you're thinking, well, we shouldn't suck that bad, but it's pretty easy to do. Like two guys figure something out like they did there. Wheeler and Takahiro were two different teams, and they both, the third period, both passed us and walked away from us. They both got their act together and started catching them, and you know that's coming with at least one of them, but most likely two of them, and sometimes it's all three teams. Sometimes it just starts in the morning like that, like everybody just starts catching them, but it's kind of like little paces that go throughout the day that somebody figures something out, and the race starts with that team, and the next team does it, and then the next team does it. It's like who's catching them faster with that format,
Mm-hmm.
which it kind of goes back to the MLF format that every fish counts. It can be exciting because of that, but also from the fishing side of it, you can get so far behind. You're like, man, this is like, how are we? We got an hour left and we got to catch 40 pounds. Like it could happen. You can catch 40 pounds in an hour, but it's not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a five fish, it's easier to catch 2 5-pounders probably than in an hour than it is to catch 40 or 50 pounds in an hour. Like you can get
Sure.
dumbass lucky and catch a couple fives. But to go catch that many, it can be hard. You can get a hole pretty quick, and yeah, we've seen that a lot more with the proliferation of forward facing in MLF. These young guys, they just every year they get better and better. I mean, everybody that comes up from that tackle warehouse tour is really good at forward facing, and it's like that first period. I would say probably 70% of the field or more uses the first period. And it's like, if you haven't caught them in that first period, it's like, wow, that's a pretty tall order pretty quick. It seems like it happens more and more every year as these younger guys get better and better. And the older guys get better at it too. But I mean, honestly, right now, like I put a ton of time in forward facing sonar. I mean, over the last few years, I probably averaged 3 days a week trying to get better with it. And yet you go out there and you see these guys that have fished for 3 or 4 years. And when they're younger, there's something about the age of it that they're better. That kid, Garrett, that just won at Clear Lake here, the kid I fished with since he was 17, I think, up here. And like we still go out and he fishes a lot. Like he fishes 3 4 days a week. But you get out there, I'm like, man, he's seeing stuff I'm not seeing. I mean, making better casts than me all day, like just so efficient with it. And yet, as good as I think he is with it, I think a guy like Drew Gill or, there's Jake Walker, there's all these other guys that are these young guys that are twice as good as he is with it. It's pretty impressive to see, but there's something about age that like guys that I would consider to be really good at forward facing sonar. I think Wheeler's like the oldest guy I know that I consider to be really good. And he's like 34. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know what it is about being younger. If it's the fact that the younger generation just doesn't know anything else to do. So they're just like all in on it. If there's something there, better hand-eye coordination, if it's something with the technical side of it, they've played with more electronics throughout their life. I don't know what it is, but it's like there hasn't been a guy that's above 40 that's really caught on and been like really good with it. There's been guys that have had little glimmers of success, but I wouldn't say guys that have been really good with it. And there's a lot of guys that are 40 to 60 years old that have fished their whole life that have spent a lot of time over the last 5 years doing it. And it's like they just never get to be as good as some of these younger guys do in a pretty short order. I don't know why that is.
I think it's just that. Us three grew up, fishing the way that we did without it. You're trying to relate everything else, everything you've learned through the years of bass fishing to that, what you're seeing on the screen. They're not trying to relate that whatsoever. They go out, put the transducer out, they're seeing a fish and seeing the response from a fish like that. And there's no trying to relate anything else past experiences, or
Mm-hmm.
very minimal at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, maybe it just goes back to simplicity again. It's just all
Yeah,
about what's on the
exactly.
screen, and that's it. It doesn't matter if that fish is around grass or rock or wood or deep or shallow. It's just a fish.
Well, and they're
Yeah.
coming
Maybe
they're
that's it.
coming up, spending a lot of time doing that, right? Like they're
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's what they did. They get to a higher level. They've been spending 2 3 years with that technology every time they went out. When you're
Mhm.
already up at that level, you can't spend the time learning compared to the guy that is at home and gets to, he's practicing for a tournament here and there, but only, he's got a month between tournaments, and he's doing every day is going out, use that technology. You don't have a month between tournaments.
Yeah, but like some of those Japanese anglers, they come to the States and they fish every day. That's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are really good at it. And they may
Mm-hmm.
be older. I don't know. They all look pretty young, but I think that's just Japanese people look young. But yeah, I don't know how old they are. Like Fujita, I think that's how you say his name. He obviously is pretty good with it. But those guys, like, I mean, you talk about a work ethic. Those guys that come from Japan, they fish every day, and they're not like these kids are still out there beating them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. There's something about it that they just like that younger generation. It really has a stranglehold on that, and they keep getting better. It's like this Bank Shaw guy that's coming up. There's several of them out there that are going to keep getting better and better too. They're winning all the local tournaments. Once they get up to a national level event, they just dominate. And the formats are starting to limit it a little bit more, maybe slow that because it's like one period a day now versus that. And I don't even know what the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals are now. I think they were doing every other day. I think they may be doing half days this year. But in a half day, it doesn't matter. I mean, those guys are good enough that in an hour they can go win a 5-fish tournament or beat a lot of guys in a 5-fish tournament that aren't using it.
Mm-hmm.
Every other day has been the limiting thing in those invitationals that some of the guys haven't qualified because there's a lot of those guys that catch them one day when they can use it, and the next day it's like, wow, did you even go out? They catch almost nothing. It's like it's kind of amazing they're that good at that, but without it, they can't really fish very well. Not saying that they're less of a fisherman because of it. It's a very powerful technology, but it's amazing to me that you can go out and catch as much is what they do with it to go see, and when it's taken away, how little they catch. It seems like I'd like to think that I would have learned from what I saw there and be able to catch them, but maybe it's like me going forward facing, the opposite side of it. I go pick it up, and it's not like I can go do what I was doing and do it that much better. I pretty much have to be using it like that to be somewhat effective with it, where it's just solely that. It's not like all of a sudden I'm skipping a jig under docks and I'm that much better because of it. It's a lot of action when you're trying to actually like fish cover and stuff. It's a little overwhelming for me. Like I'm trying to pan a dock, see what pole one's on, and slide it under the float under there, and keep moving at a pace that I've covered a lot of water. Like it feels like it's kind of overwhelming. There's just so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Those young guys, they are really good at it. And I mean, I remember growing up that there was a guy named Casey Ewa from Arizona and myself that were like the young guys in the 150s. And I was like 23 or 24 years old. Hell, a 23 or 24-year-old's not even considered young anymore fishing. It's like 18, 19, like, yeah, that's not even young
You're
anymore.
almost a vet at 24.
Yeah, oh yeah. At that time, there was a couple of us in our 20s is all. When I started, then now it's like, you're 30s? Like, man, your grandfather yet? It's crazy how young the sport has gotten, and really a lot of it's just in the last. I mean, I want to say like 5-6 years it's happened that fast.
Yeah.
Like I don't. If this continues, I don't know. What does it look like 10 years down the road? That. Yeah. I mean, everybody's under 30. I don't know.
I mean, with the influence that you have of the college and high school and middle school fishing, I think that's very possible. These kids are exposed through those programs to so much more national stuff. Plus, you throw in social media, your ability to learn about different bodies of water, whether it's the mapping on our graphs, the forward-facing sonar, the learning curve of the younger kids is just so much reduced because of that. So you got a guy that's 30 fishing on tour. He didn't have college fishing. He didn't have high school fishing. He didn't have middle school fishing for sure. All these kids that are coming up younger, they had all that stuff. So they were fishing middle school, experiencing tournaments, possibly traveling around the country from wherever they're from. At the same time, this guy that's 30 was doing the same thing for the first time.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty easy for those kids to mentally be more prepared than what they were in previous generations.
Yeah. Like in 10 years, you're going to see bundles of a sea urchin, a minnow, a jig head, and a lollipop all in the same package.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's all you need.
You got anything else for him, Kurt?
I think that's it.
Okay. I know you got to get to the family. So, where can people find you? You're Luke Clausen on Instagram, Luke Clausen Fishing on YouTube. You got anything else? Anywhere else they can find you?
Luke Clausen on Facebook. You can find me there. Definitely reach out to me if you guys have any questions about fishing. I try to get back to everybody if it's about tackle, even techniques, lakes, whatever. Anybody that DMs me, I always get back to them. So if you got any questions, feel free to reach out. I love to see people learn and catch more fish. So, yeah, definitely reach out to any of those resources. Follow me on MPFL this year, One Bass. And yeah, that's about it. Appreciate everybody watching. Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming. And we appreciate
Thank
it. All right. We're out of here.
All right.
See you guys.
Sounds good. You guys have a good night.
Yeah, you too,
You
Luke.
too.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.